Hello everybody.
Hello.
And you're welcome to the Coffee and Beans podcast with Adesola Balogun. My name is Adesola Balogun and I'm excited about this episode. I'm pretty excited. As we progress, you will know why. So on today's episode, I have a multifaceted entrepreneur with diverse experience of over 20 years. She combines culturally intelligent makeup expertise with third-generation funeral services and philanthropy. I've known her for quite a while, and one word I can use to define her is resilient. And I'm so happy to welcome Mrs. Bolanle Okusanya Feyita to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
She's the managing director of premium funeral services company, LTJ Funerals International. You're welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm really excited. We've been planning this for a long time.
Forever.
We are here.
Forever. So let's just dive straight in. I mean, I didn't even know you've been in entrepreneurship for that long. How did that start for you?
So that started. I did my A-levels, and then I went to university. But I think from when I was about 14, I had already started. I had a business. So my first business that I remember was making hair ruffles.
Oh, okay.
So my mom had some random sewing machine, and I see all sorts of fabrics around, pieces, and I thought, you could use a small piece. So I used to make these ruffles, and I wear them on my hand. And anybody that I saw, I would sell them. So that's my first. Some of my cousins remember other things before, but that's my first memory.
Yeah.
So when I finished university, I realized that looking for a job was challenging for me because I couldn't just get around. Or the jobs I really wanted, the application processes were very long.
Right. And
in many of them, in the process of applying, I would just stop. I just think, this is not worth my while. And some of them I would go through, and it was just tedious. And to be honest with you, a lot of them, but after I did a few, I thought I could do better doing other things. This is a waste of my time. Just the process, I wish it was a situation then that I could just meet with that person hiring and tell them what I could do or what they could do for me, and that's it. But you had to do psychometric tests, all sorts of tests.
So that process was what? Was it just tired you out?
It just tired me out, and I thought, I can do other things, so I just continued with the other things I was doing.
Wow. So you started your let's say the proper entrepreneurship journey with the formal is the word. Mm-hmm. Thank you. With beauty.
Yes. So I when I went to England, when I was starting my A-levels, I needed to get a job because I just couldn't survive financially without a job.
Mm-hmm.
And I walked all through Oxford Street looking for any shop. It was just I just kept looking for a job, and then I got a job at the Body Shop. The Body Shop does cosmetics.
Right.
They do body products and makeup, and my job was stacking shelves.
Wow.
But in Body Shop, everybody wears the same uniform. So the people selling makeup, the people at the till, management, people stacking shelves were the same. So I was stacking shelves, and I thought, the makeup was interesting. So that gave me a first insight into doing the makeup. And when people come into the shop, they would just ask you for this, and I thought, I don't know. But then that was it. So I thought, I'll find out. And that really was my first experience working in cosmetics. When I left there, I then got a job working for an agency. So then in London, then you could have they had these agencies that serviced a lot of the big department stores like Harrods and Selfridges for part-time staff. So on a daily basis, if a counter had somebody who was off sick, somebody's on holiday, they would have this pool of bank staff that they would use. So I was one of those people.
Right.
So I got sent to different shops products and different brands because I thought, I could do this. I mean, they just needed somebody who had a little bit of interest. You didn't have to be a professional.
Right.
And that was my big opportunity in hindsight, because then I got to experience so many different brands. And then I got a job. All this is through my A-levels. Then I went to university. I got a job working part-time for one of the beauty brands. And then it became a job I did every holiday. Every time I was available, they were very happy with me. And they allowed me to work as much as I could.
As you could.
So when there's holiday, I would. So that's how beauty became part of my life. And I thought, this is something I really enjoy.
With hindsight, did you have interest? I mean, if you pre the body shop, did you have interest in beauty, makeup, that sort of thing?
No,
working there was what
triggered? Yes, I come from on my maternal side. I come from my mother, my grandmother, my great grandmother. All the pictures that I saw, my great grandmother and my grandmother, who I knew very well, my mom, always had very entrepreneurial lifestyle, and they also had a very big fashion side of their lives. It wasn't like their main thing, but they were very just fashionable. I just come from a generation of very fashionable
people, right?
So as for them, I'd always seen fashion, beauty, that kind of thing
as a thing,
as just part of life, lifestyle. So, but it wasn't like something I would do for work.
But how long did you like go into beauty before doing what you do right now as a funeral director? Yes.
So I worked in beauty from when I finished university, which is about 2001.
Wow.
And I still do work in beauty. So now,
yes,
but not in the same capacity. So I used to be a very hands-on makeup artist. I did events, weddings, a lot of different things like that. And then I ended up doing styling, destination events, and really teaching. I really enjoyed teaching, so I started pivoting towards doing that more.
Towards training.
So I'll be training makeup artists.
Okay.
And that's really the trajectory. Now I work more with brands, rather than, because my lifestyle is very different, and you've trained too many makeup artists, they can do the everyday. But I still have some clients who would always insist that I would do their makeup. I'm grateful for them, but really the bulk of my work is really working with brands, helping them look at how they're servicing their customers, looking at diversity in beauty, that kind of thing. Okay,
I'm still gonna go ask you how you're able to what's the word now? Mix both worlds of the beauty and working funerals. But let's go into your role as managing director of LTJ. Not just the managing director, you are handling a third generation succession. First of all, how did that come about for you?
Okay, so LTJ was set up 8 years ago in memory of my father and my brother. My brother and my dad passed away in a plane crash 10 years ago on the way to doing a funeral. So they were doing a funeral and this plane crash happened in Lagos, and that's really what was my own kick starting to working in funerals more full time. So before my father died 10 years ago, as a teenager, I'd always worked with my dad. So I worked with my dad maybe 15 years before he passed away. I'd always worked in the background doing all sorts of different international business, because I used to live in England predominantly then.
Okay.
Yes.
Would you say you were groomed to take over the family business?
No. So my father always had in mind that he was going to live forever. Not really, no. My father always had in mind that when he passed away, he would leave whatever he had of, he would hand the business over to probably my brother and myself. So it wasn't that I was set up that was what I was going to do. It was just like, okay, my brother would do some things and I would do some things, and and maybe some of my other siblings would do something. He just wanted all of us to have some sort of interest and understanding
in the business.
Yes.
So with when you say you were you worked in the background, were you involved in the building of the coffins? Were you involved in the business?
What side of that?
What side of the business?
So by the time before I went to England, I just used to kind of help out a bit. By the time I went, I was 17.
Oh. Okay.
So by the time I went, I did all the international stuff. Funerals in Nigeria, people see more of the funerals are often the celebrations of life, but as a funeral director, the kind of business in our family that we've done, there's a lot of international sides. So Nigerians die everywhere, all over the world, and they want to be buried in their village.
Yeah.
So the logistics of doing that, dealing with, and you can't just pick somebody up and just bring them in your hand luggage. You have to. There's paperwork. There's embassies.
Right.
There are different things that you do. That's one side. I used to work anything that was international. Anything like that I would sort out.
Right.
And there's also a lot of purchasing. So like caskets we would buy, we had fittings that we would buy, we had interiors, different things that we would use, flowers, equipment, different things that we would do. And we're also part of different international organizations. So once I was abroad, my dad just stopped traveling so much.
Just handed over everything to you.
Handed over that side of things for me to do. It was just convenient.
Yeah.
So that's really the side that I did. And my brother was more visible
in
Nigeria and did a lot more of the things here.
Amazing. I discovered that in 8 years, the amount of business and caliber of people that LTJ has catered to, a lot of companies that have done decades and still haven't been able to cover that. What would you say is the secret behind that?
I think the secret of it, ultimately, honestly, if God has called you to something, the evidence of it is the proof of what you're doing. I think it's God's grace, really. Because when we started, we didn't have any pictures. We had nothing to show. Now people look at us and say we've served this and this, but we had to build up for people to trust us. So I think God's grace, ultimately, I can't attribute it to anything else, really. But then in a that's on one side, but really that's really the broad picture. God's grace really has been, and LTJ is a company that is founded out of loss. And really for me, it's been my own therapy and my own will to deal with my own grief. I just couldn't sit down and do nothing. I was just running mad. And I thought, this is something I could do. My brother, my dad, and I, the three of us did a lot of work. My dad obviously was the one that people knew. But my dad died a couple of weeks before his 60th birthday. And he had been planning... he had been a lot more reflective. So he said he wasn't going to have a party. He didn't have any money. That's something we hear all the time. But my dad was never a party type of person and didn't really like too much attention, like party-wise, definitely no. So he didn't want to have a party, but he was a lot more reflective. And he had been losing some of his friends. Some of his friends had passed away. That really made him just a lot more reflective of life. And I think coming up to 60, and he was very much of a traditional sole proprietor.
Right.
He did everything himself. But my brother and I saw that he had been kind of handing off different bits for us to do more. And so I think it was just something that just evolved as time was going. Things were evolving, and we had grown up with a very strong work ethic.
Right.
So we were brought up working very hard. We've seen our parents, our grandparents working very hard. My grandfather was the first person I remember working this business, and on my paternal side, very hardworking entrepreneurs. On my maternal side, very hardworking. So we had grown up being very hardworking. So for us, we're putting a lot of extra effort, and the effort to the glory of God has borne much
Born much
fruit.
fruit, yeah.
So we we have a lot of goodwill. One thing that when we started out, lots of people said, "Oh, you're just getting this work because of your father's name," and I'm very grateful for that. But if you have a good heritage, it opens doors for you.
Yeah.
And I'm grateful for that. But you have to be competent for the door to stay
Yes,
open.
yes.
So
absolutely.
So you have a good name. Yes, you probably be recognized, but then you have to do an amazing job. And over time, a lot of people don't even know about our background. They don't know about our heritage. They just want to service, provide.
Yeah.
And that's where we are. So it's been a combination of different things.
Right.
A lot of hard work. It's not a 9 to 5 gig. It's not a 5 days. It's a 7 days a week. Everybody involved, and I have an amazing support system. My family. So I think that's really, I have an amazing support system. My family is committed to the vision. And I also have an amazing team.
Yeah.
I have an amazing group of people that I work with that have become like another side of my family as well. So I think it's a combination of all that.
Amazing. I want us to talk about successions. Successions aren't so popular in this part of the world. You find that most businesses really just once the founder passes, it's not the same. Will I say the same energy? Or you don't find founders who are able to see people they can. I don't know if it's the fault in inverted commas of the founder or the fact that they're so used to doing everything themselves. But how do you think or what do you think is the reason for the success of this particular succession from your granddad to your dad to you and it just feels, or will I say it seems like it's getting better. The as you evolve through the years, the brand keeps getting better. What do you think makes this type of your succession as a funeral company tick?
Okay, I think first of all, I personally believe that working in funerals is one of the most challenging, physically, emotionally, spiritually, everythingly, so I think you have to be called. You have to be called. It's a gift. Like I really believe that you have a family, that God gives different gifts. The Bible gives us different examples of it. People that are called to be artisans, and you see that their father did it, their grandfather did it. Different people did. People that are artists. You see some people that actors, and their children become actors.
Yeah.
So I think that there's that divine element, that there's a gift, and that gift has to be nurtured.
Right.
That gift has to be nurtured in the sense that my first memory of my grandfather was when I was about 5. My grandfather's shop was like a hub in Lagos Island. People used to hang out. Lots of people used to work. And so it was very normal for me to be involved in funerals from when I was 5.
Wow.
Because we used to hide in the caskets. We used to play around them.
Wow.
Yes, because I always say that when I have an interview. I never cease to be amazed looking back at it, because if you go to my grandfather's shop, somebody will tell you to come and sweep, somebody will tell you to go and buy something, somebody else. So if you don't want anybody to send you anything, just quickly hide in one of the caskets, and nobody will find you. Leave a little gap. But it was normal for us to grow up in that kind of environment. Right. We used to always go to my granddad's shop. And then as we grew up, my grandfather, as I was getting older, my grandfather was a master carpenter. I think that's the best way to describe him. He considers himself as a carpenter. He was a carpenter who did church furniture, household furniture, and coffins were his side gig.
Oh wow!
And that became his main gig. So he evolved and trained a lot of people. In fact, I meet some elderly carpenters, different parts of the country, and they say, "Oh, Baba trained me," and I say, "Oh," and they say, "No, not your father."
Your father's father.
Your father's father. I'm thinking, I don't know what do I say to this. So that's such an amazing thing that he experimented with different things and became renowned for his craft.
Yeah.
But there's nothing more, I think, fulfilling for me than when I meet people who are elderly and, maybe they used to be somebody renowned, but as they go older, their lifestyle is more quiet and they're no longer in their prime. And they would say, when their husband died in 1950 something, this is what your grandfather did for me. And the blessing in that. So there has to be an element of going beyond just the books with any business. There has to be an element of thinking outside, serving people, touching people's hearts. There has to be that side of thing with anything that you're doing, but especially also in the funeral business. And then my grandfather's shop was down the road, and as he became older, he just used to come and just sit in the shop and meet some of his friends. And as a lot of them died off, he just, after a while, he just said he wasn't coming anymore and he retired. But then my grandfather was there. Then when my dad came back from England, my dad did engineering. When he came back from England, while he was thinking, would he get a job, would he not, he started working with his own father. And that's how my father started and developed a lot of what his father did. So most people know my dad, they don't know of my grandfather working in the same trade. So there was a time when my father's business and my grandfather's were working at the same time. So my grandfather's shop was down the road, number 27. My dad's was number 17. So just a few doors down each other. So we're looking for something. It's either going to be in my granddad or my dad.
Or 17.
Yes. So for that, my dad was brought up. My grandfather started in 1946. My dad was born in 1953.
Wow.
So before he was born, that's all he's known.
That's all he knew.
That's all he knew. That's all. It was the money from the business that sent him to school. And all that kind of thing. So the same thing. It's the same thing. I was born 78. My dad had been working since immediately as he grew up, he started his own company. I think 80, so a couple of years after I was born. So yeah, I think that's really much it. I think one of the first things that the next generation have to be part of the business from the very beginning. So it's their lifestyle. It's not something that the challenge that a lot of people have is that they have this business, they work so hard at it, and the next generation don't know anything about it. They don't know, and then they just go and head it. They go to school and they just go and head it. Well, no, they have to be part of it. From the very beginning.
So you find people who say, my kid is not keen on the business. My kid is not. I don't have any of my kids that are interested in it. So what would you say? What would you say to that person that has that, let's say, dilemma?
I think the thing is that multi-generational businesses, you can't force somebody. You can't say because I'm your child you must do it. No, you can't do that. I think you expose them to it and see whoever picks up the interest. And the business, I look at, in the funeral business, I'm always amazed when I meet people. I've met somebody who's a 5th generation before.
Wow.
I've met a 5th generation, I met the 4th generation. Lots of 4th generations I've met, lots. And they have evolved and kind of managed to, and then every generation, some people in their families, the next generation becomes a wider pool of people. So you find one person is interested, the other one is not interested, and so within that group of people there will be one or two. Some people, as the next generation comes, they have less children, so there are less people to so they have that challenge of, well, there's nobody interested. So it just really depends. You can't force anybody to be part of it, but you just have to just give them exposure. Often I find that often when the children understand the why, my children go to funeral exhibitions, my children help to choose designs. when I have challenges, some of my serious decisions, I just post it to them and give them an opportunity to think through and see. So they are very familiar. They have obviously they're quite young now, so the capacity of what they can do is different. But they're quite, when I remember going to to go and see one of my suppliers, and it was during the holidays, and I had to take them with me. So I said, okay, both of you come along, sit down in the corner. And after I said, no, you can't sit down in the corner. Come follow me and be doing videos of the things so I can look at it when I so they already have an idea. They're not overwhelmed. It's not anything. It's no big deal.
So grooming the next generation already.
Well, let's see. Yes, let's see. I think regardless of whether the children work in the business or not, I think just as a lifestyle. When I was working predominantly in makeup, they went with me to makeup shows.
Right.
They carried my things. They do my brushes. They wash them, arrange my products. If I had an exhibition, they could come. So it's just
getting them involved.
Just getting your children involved in what you're doing.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Let's talk about your role as a funeral director. There aren't too many female funeral directors. Well, that I know. Most of the funeral directors I know are male. What's different about being doing what you do in a male-dominated industry as funeral services? How do you think that's like an added advantage? Are people more, especially because funerals are very emotional, very very emotional occasions. You don't find too many men displaying emotions during the process. Let me just being a funeral director that is female, especially in male dominated industry. How does that work for you? Yeah, how's that for you?
I think that I see myself, so I answer for my own view of it. So I see myself as an entrepreneur. I see myself as a business person. That I'm female is as well as, but that's not my focus.
Right.
So wherever it is, I don't see that as a disadvantage. In fact, I see it as an advantage. First of all, how it's played out in LTJ, I don't know. I like fashion. So we look A1, LTJ, our uniforms, for example.
Impeccable.
Just like all the time. So I pay attention to a lot. But I have a beauty background. I have a background in fashion. Right. So that's just bringing transferable skills. Right. So that's not because I'm a woman in the business, just transferable skills from my other work. I think also on a compassion basis, a bit different how you see things.
Right.
People, I'm a little bit funeral director, a little bit guidance counselor, a little bit bereavement counselor, a little bit agony aunt, a little bit family problem solver-ish is really the things that I do. I find that the process of arranging a funeral is very emotional. It's very multifaceted. There's a lot of stakeholders, families there's so many different people. Depends on who dies, what age, what family structure. So I find that being a woman in the business, sometimes I can see a little bit more. Like I was speaking to a family yesterday, and we finished all the things that we had to do, and I was just telling one of the children who was another lady. So we finished, and the men were interested in how much does this cost, and how much, and that's it. They finished. Thank you very much, bye bye. And then I was talking to the lady, and I was just saying, "What are you going to wear?" And she just looked blank. I
was lost. She didn't think about it.
Totally lost. So she said, "Oh, that's true. That's true. What do people wear?"
Wow.
And I said, "Okay, why don't you think of this?" And she brought out her book and she started writing it down. And I don't think a man would do that. And I don't think he would even come across the same way for a man. So I think, you think about this, think about that. And what is your, what is, I think is their dad had passed away. So what's your mom going to wear? She said,
They didn't think about it.
Didn't think about that. So I think being a woman, you add a lot of different layers of value. There's advantages and disadvantages to anything, and I'm sure as a man, there's advantages that the man would have that I wouldn't have. I'm sure.
Whatever that is.
I think all of us have different things that
bring.
bring.
They'll bring
different flavor
to the table. I must say, every time I see the videos of when you're doing the procession, you always, you and your people are always dressed to the nines, the pallbearers.
You're looking from the
dressed to the yes, of course, fashion point of view, and I think that is also an added advantage. I mean, if I want to use LTJ handled my dad's funeral, and I mean, they went over and beyond, and I just wanted to say thank you.
When was it dad's funeral?
2019.
Wow.
Yeah,
so long.
Yeah. And LTJ went over and beyond. Because the one we not asked them to do, they did. So, and I think that's also part of what endears a lot of people to you. Because I was before the mics were on, I went through. So in their office, I mean, we're doing this recording in their office. So in their office, they have like is this a Hall of Fame?
No. We have a wall
of
some of the jobs.
Yes. I was told that in fact it's changed quite periodically.
Yes.
And I said
people get upset with us when they come.
And they don't
maybe
see
they
that.
come with somebody and they say, "Oh,
I didn't see my dad's picture." So I'm part of the people.
So and we don't have enough space, so we try to change it.
Exactly.
So
exactly. So and I just told myself, and I believe that there has to be something different about what you offer as a funeral company. It's not just bring the body, buy a casket and go. It has to be beyond that. I always tell people that it goes beyond the product, the experience. When the experience when you buy that product is always what will linger with people. So well done. Wow.
Thank you so much. And just to say on that, when I look at the pictures, I think one of the pictures is a reflection of different people that we have served.
Yeah.
But to me, it's a humbling experience, because every single picture, there's a story behind it. There's a story to the process of the funeral, the place it was, and so it's a memorial for me. And it's a way. One thing that is very key to us in LTJ as we have evolved is that we want to serve families and honor lives.
Right.
I think that very easily in the challenges of the culture that we live in and the way the world is, once somebody has died, that's it. I'm very much not somebody to say let's worship the dead, but I think that if you're serving a family and doing a funeral, then let's honor the life that the person lived. I think that's very important, and that runs through everything that we do. Just honoring this life, not just this person has died. You're honoring their life and remembering them, and for that time that you're doing the funeral, you're just remembering this is somebody that has lived and honoring that life. So I think that's very important. Amazing.
So in the daily having to deal with different people that are dealing with loss, does the personal tragedy that you've been through help with helping those same people go through what they go through?
I think that I can answer that from the perspective of for my own loss, how I deal with them is different. If it helps them, they would be the one to say that it helped them. So I think from my perspective, definitely, I've always worked in the funeral industry for about 15 years. So I had professional experience.
Right.
I had professional understanding. And I also had some personal experience because I lost some loved ones, but they were older people, my grandparents. So I understood that grief. But then losing my dad and my brother, that gave me a totally different
perspective,
and so a different kind of compassion.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Totally different personal.
Yeah.
Yes, perspective.
Okay. One thing that stands out for me when I come into your office is Olatunji Okusanya Foundation, and I know that you are very big on philanthropy. So could you shed more light on what the foundation does and what it stands for?
So we have the Olatunji Okusanya Memorial Foundation.
Yeah.
The foundation was set up to just continue a lot of the things my brother and my father did.
Right.
Charitable things. So they did a lot of charitable things, but in an informal way. So somebody, for example, needs to help with their school fees. My dad would just put his hand in his pocket and see what he could give you. And my brother and I did a lot of things. We did a lot of things with orphanages and that kind of thing, supporting them. And I thought that work should continue in some sort of way.
Mm-hmm.
And then also when they died, I found some things that my brother especially did that nobody even knew that he was doing. So I thought that the foundation would be the best way to do it in a way that is a bit more structured. So the foundation, we have 3 parts. So we have grief support, bereavement support. We're working on launching a set of kind of bereavement support sessions where people can come for free.
Okay.
And they can just have support, and they can talk. Because when somebody dies, people just say, "Oh, don't worry, it is well," but it's not well. And some people lose a loved one, and they are never the same, and they lose their minds, they lose their livelihood, they lose everything. Some people just can't. There's so many different spheres to it. So we have this bereavement support that we're going to do. Maybe by the time this is out. We have cemetery care. My brother was very passionate about cemeteries and places of rest. The day before he passed away, there was a full double-page spread in the newspaper about some work that he was doing, and just championing the cause of educating people, encouraging people to look after the places where their loved ones are resting. Somebody has worked, has lived, and then when they pass away, a lot of cemeteries, you go there, if you're not careful, you would even end up being buried.
Yeah, they're unkempt.
They are totally unkempt.
The
private ones are the ones that people look at as kept, but then the public ones, the difference is that the private ones, you pay premium, so the cemetery looks after the place. The ones that are publicly owned, you have to look after it. And some every time you go to a cemetery, you see the ones where they're open, they're exposed. Nobody's ever visited, nobody's ever looked after it. So my brother's very passionate about that. So we do cemetery care, and what we do is clean up cemeteries for free.
Wow.
Yes, just clean up cemeteries at no cost. A lot of families don't even know. We just tidy it up.
For LTJ clients, or you don't have to be an LTJ client?
No, you just do, like where my brother is buried, for example.
Right.
We clear up the whole area of maybe about 50, 60 graves.
Wow.
At no cost, and doing that in different places as well. So it's not related to whether LTJ at all, not at all. But what we do also is that if you're an LTJ client and you want us to do it, we'll do it at a very little nominal fee. And help you just look after the cemetery space. And I think we have a service where the foundation would clean the vault and send you pictures twice a year. Many people are very busy. Many people are not even living in Nigeria. Or living where the person is buried. So it's good for you to know that, every 6 months you're going to get a picture. So if anything is broken or damaged, before it becomes a big thing, you already fixed it, for decency. So we have that. Then we have education support. Education support is really encouraging people to stay in school. The truth of the matter is, as an entrepreneur, you're as good as how educated you are. And that's not formal education, Education is just any education. You're just as good as how much education you have on the inside of you. I'm 100%. My legacy that my dad has left for me is education. My legacy and education is something that you can't take away from the person. So that's the only gift that I know that you can't take away. So houses and everything else can fade. I mean, they're good, and money is good, but education triumphs above all those things. So I think for us as a foundation, we want to encourage people in our own way for them to stay in education for as long as possible. And what we've done is that we had to start from somewhere. Ideally, would be to pay 1 million children's school fees until university, but practically that hasn't happened yet. But we're here. If it happens, we'll do it. What we do things where we donate to schools, exercise books, writing materials, shoes. Like a lot of kids don't have shoes. They go to schools, you'll be amazed. You go to these schools and they don't even have shoes.
Wow.
So giving them books, bags, and sometimes when they have inter-house sports, supporting them, some refreshment just to encourage them. I mean, the first time we did it was like, oh really? So inter-house sports, there's not even water for the children because the school just doesn't have that budget.
Yeah. So how do you select the children? How do you select the school to support? How do you select the...
I think we started out just working. We started out working with people not too far from us in LTJ.
Okay.
So schools around here.
Around here, okay.
There's a lot of schools that are really in need.
Yeah.
Around here. Started out with that. We've done some in Lagos Island as well.
Okay.
So we've done some. I went to my dad's school, my dad's primary school. That was quite nice.
Okay.
Had a lot of meaning to it and donated some things to them as well. So we really look for schools that they have the biggest need.
Right.
We send somebody to go and have a look when the not in an announced way, just pop into the school, have a look, see how the children look. But some schools don't really need much. Some need more than others. So there's like there are different levels
of need.
Yeah, so we look for people that have the most need. We also have been doing, I think during COVID and even till now, we've been doing some food. That's not part of our the three things that we do, but I think there's a need for food. Some people that they haven't got any they just haven't got any help at all.
Wow.
So we've been doing that as well. And then we have some people who reach out to us and say, I know you and I know that you're legit. I have this money. Can you please give?
Yes, I was going to ask that.
People?
Yeah, like, do you have people who support based on what you do, or is? I was going to ask about funding. How's that?
The truth of the matter, a lot of the funding that we have, the foundation is LTJ.
LTJ, yeah.
So one of the things also with LTJ is that for every person that we serve, there's a fraction of that goes towards the foundation, just as a principle. So everything that we do, every family that we serve, there's a little fraction that goes towards the foundation, and that's really helping other people. So that's how LTJ is set up. So we just wait for those to add up, and then we do something. So, but in the course of doing it, I've always been, there's a lot of other things that I would never even say, and you just do,
yeah.
But I think in the course of working in LTJ, and as just life has progressed, I realized that, foundation for a lot of people means different things.
True.
So I wouldn't, a lot of times, it's just recently that I've been pushing to share the work that we're doing. We've done a lot of things that we haven't shared, but we will share. But because I know that a lot of people use foundation as a scam. So use it as a scam or to launder money. And I wouldn't want to be involved in anything like that. So I just thought, let's just be doing the foundation and doing our own thing. I don't want anybody to think that as they're sharing the picture, maybe we're thinking to hustle them for money.
Yeah.
So, but then as we started doing it, people would reach out to us and say, is there any way, do you have account details? Can we support you?
Wow.
So now we share, if you want to support us, yes, by all means. Yes, but But predominantly, a lot of what we've done is what
It's from LTJ.
Yeah.
I mean, in rounding up this episode, I'm curious to know, what would you say is the guiding principle behind the staying power of LTJ? What would you say is what keeps you going as an entrepreneur? Because I mean, the long and short of it is you're an entrepreneur. You run a business, a thriving business. What would you say? What would you say is that one thing that keeps you going and keeps you going? Gives you that. I mean, on the days where you can't, just keeps you up and say, I must keep doing this.
I think there's two faces to it. How do you say that? On one side, the main side, because we're born out of tragedy and loss, we're set up to help people.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that helped, because every family we serve, 99% of families that we serve will say that we've gone over and beyond. We purpose to do more than they can ask, more than they have asked us to do. And I think that is a priceless feeling. I think that sense that you have helped somebody navigate their loss is a priceless feeling.
Yeah.
So I think that for me is the thing, right? For each and every family, because it's not just, when we do a funeral, it's not just a funeral, it's like a family that you are supporting. Death is not a respecter of age, it's not a respecter of person. So when we do funerals, there are all sorts. We do teenagers, we do children, we do people in 20s, 30s, 40s, 100 and something. Where lots of people know us maybe for the more celebrations that are celebrations of life, but we have, death is not a respecter of age. The youngest person we've done is 4 years old or 5 years old, so it's not a respecter of age. And then we've even done people who are less than that. But anyway, that is my own thing on one side. And the other thing is also the people that we have that are working for us. We have full-time staff. We have a lot of part-timers. We have people that are suppliers. We have a whole load of different people that if we don't go, then what's going to happen to their livelihood? Sometimes I just think, this is too hard. And, sometimes Nigeria is not really an enabling environment in certain things. So we're praying, we're hoping that Nigeria will become better, more improved. But sometimes things are quite tough. And I have to think of the many people that depend on the work that we're doing to earn a living.
Thank you so much for finding time. She's a very busy person, people. She's a very busy person.
No, I'm available. I'm also not available. I'm available.
She's a very busy person. Any parting shots?
I think entrepreneurship is something that is quite glorified as a better option, but it's not always a better option.
It's not.
So I think it's worth saying that. I think not everybody's called to be an entrepreneur as a lifestyle. Sometimes entrepreneurship is for a season. I know people preach multiple streams of income. So sometimes entrepreneurship is for a season as well as something else. But the true entrepreneurs that really thrive and survive are entrepreneurs that have people that are called to help them. A lot of the work that we do is because we have good people. Am I going to be the one that will carry the coffin or drive the car or maintain the earth or sew the clothes? Or I can't do all those things, but we have to have good people that are committed to the cause, people that see a vision. Sometimes some people are called to do that. So it's for people to find whatever is their own thing, and in their faithfully doing that, they flourish. The entrepreneur flourishes. The helper, the people that are called to serve and work with the entrepreneur, they also flourish. So I think that's very important to put out there, that you have to find what it is that is your own thing, and entrepreneurship might be your life call. It might be something that you do as well as. Obviously, if it's something that you're doing as well as, it's a very different time commitment and effort and everything. And if you want to go into entrepreneurship and you have a job, it's very important that you just let that kind of evolve rather than give up your job and then go hungry. I remember when I was a makeup artist, I was really tough at the very beginning. It was very tough. I had no clients. I was just desperate. And somebody would offer me a job that maybe you should pay like £100. I'm thinking, I have to pay my electricity bill. And they're offering you 50. Just take the £50 and do the work. And if it's even a bad day and somebody offers you, £30 for a £100 job, you still take it because you're so hungry. But if I had a job that was paying me, so by the time I started now having permanent work, even if it was part-time, a couple of days, then all my basics were covered. Then I could really focus on doing the things that I should. So you have to be careful in your transition from being in a paid employment to that. Entrepreneurship. There was a question. I'm glad that I remembered. I was going to ask that for the next generation of funeral directors, what do you see yourself playing a role in training? Okay, so you don't find somebody saying, "Oh, when I grow up, I want to be a funeral director." No.
Yes. So do you think that part requires some form of formal training, or it needs people who are willing to, how let's say it now, sensitize and make it popular, or you just feel, or we leave it to founders just constantly passing the baton, or do you think someone who just has a flair for it will one day say, "I would like to be a funeral director"?
I think it's a combination of both. I think that yes, it's not really like a popularized industry. It's not. It's very. I've never met any child who says that when they grow up they want to be a funeral director.
Exactly.
But it's not really popularized. But this is even in our recruitment, it's a challenge to find people who understand that working in the funeral industry it's
not your everyday kind of.
It's not your everyday kind of job. But I think it's really exposure over time. No matter how cool or funky we are, I don't know how many funeral directors do podcasts and things like that. At least in Nigeria, I don't know. But no matter how modern and contemporary we are becoming, what we're doing is serious stuff.
Serious business, yes, exactly.
It's very serious. It's very serious, very deep. Serving that you're doing to people, so that you're doing for, not to, you're doing for people.
For people, yeah.
So it's still something that you can't. There's a level of coolness that you can't achieve, and then for our business model is not the kind of like you sing on Instagram and dance and people come and buy coffee. That people will say, I want to buy this one. Imagine you see me say, buy one get one free, buy one get it's not the kind of thing you can say that if you buy the silver one, you get the blue one
at 50%.
And
delivery is free. Worldwide, nationwide. We deliver nationwide.
So it's not the kind of thing that you can do like that. So we have to be creative in how we approach our clients, how we educate people on what we do. But the thing with the funeral industry is that if you work here, most people stay.
Yeah.
So not just in LTJ, but if you find a funeral company that, I've seen this across the world, find a funeral company that fits you and your lifestyle, you find people work there for a long time. Yeah. So there's longevity in it, and there's real true sense of purpose in it. But yes, it's interesting. I think also a lot of young people, you have to have also a big sense of compassion.
Yep.
And it's not
a major requirement.
Compassion is not a trendy gig. You know, everybody's all about self, me, myself, and I, and all eyes on me, and how, you know, look at how glam I am, and look at how fabulous I am. And the funeral industry is not like that. I mean, what's fabulous about me? How does that help your family? It doesn't help them in any way. So it's really looking at that kind of thing. For us now, when we're hiring people, I don't even, I don't have too much patience anyway. But you know, when I'm speaking to people, I kind of, if I have a vetted list of CVs, I don't read what you've done or anything. I just want to find out, what can you do for me? What can you do for my business? And how can you help me to solve some of the challenges that we have? But I think one of the things that I am personally called to is making funerals more accessible to this generation and the next generation. Yes, making it more accessible, to let you know that it's not like some sort of something clouded in secrecy, and they're not like, you know, it's not anything occultic, because some people think that as well. But yes, really, like, how do we serve people? How do we make it next generation? It's just being open about what we do, and I think that's one thing. This kind of thing is very welcome. Welcome that you can see. First of all, you have the sign that we're a funeral company. There's a lot of compassion, there's a lot of charity, a lot of people who don't have enough money, and they come to us, and we still serve them. But also, there's a professional side to it. So there's a business side. We have accountants. We have different things so the kind of people that we need to work with us, for example, we need people to work in social media, in our own way of social media. We need people that work in customer service. Some people don't deal with any bodies at all. You know, reception, in marketing, and also in the real next generation product. I think is really for people to be able to talk about their funerals. That's really the thing, you know. It's really for people now. A lot of Gen Z are very open about discussing anything. Yes. And so encouraging their parents, you know, to talk about what their funeral arrangements are. Some people, if you ask somebody who is 80-something, where do you want to be buried? Some of them will say, you want to kill them and take their land and take their property. But it's really, next generation is really encouraging people to, because the more we make it normalized, then the more you have people want to work. That's true. That kind of thing. True. But that's really true. That's true. That's very true. Everybody's going to pass away. Everybody, unless Jesus comes, then that's a whole different game. But everybody's going to die. So let's all know that. I mean, there's no adult. There's nobody who is an adult. That is, an adult is 21, I'll be 18, depending on what country you're listening from. But I think it's also, just to, as a last word, I know we've had like 5 last words. But as a last word of a last word is that, just if you're listening and you have parents, where your parents going to be buried? Do you know? Because it's amazing how much confusion happens when somebody dies. And if your parents are alive, and if you're a parent, please make your arrangements very clear. Let your children know, so that when it happens, because it's going to happen, when it happens, it's just simple and straightforward. Everybody knows. Are you going to be buried in your village in Ekiti, and commendation service is going to be done in Abuja? Or we are going to take you to Ekpoma, and then after Ekpoma, burying in Benin? You know, just make the life of your loved one easier. A lot of people don't know where their parents are from. They don't know where their village is. They don't know all these things. Then the person just dies, and you just see the villagers just come, and they say just the whole Nollywood stories begin. You know.
Do you help with estate planning?
Yes, we're getting more and more. So we have lots of people. Like allied services. But is it an LTJ service, or you just point them in the direction? Depends. So part of it will be LTJ. So we have a lot more people are paying for their funerals in their lifetime. Some of them, their children don't know. Only their lawyers know. Some of them, one child knows. Some of them, maybe a spouse knows. The other one doesn't. So there are different things. So people are choosing to pay for their funerals. They choose what they want. You know, they choose what they want. They look. Everything is in place. And when the death, especially we have Nigeria as jackpot, so Post-COVID, we learned a lot. During COVID, we did a lot of funerals where there was no children
No
present.
children present.
Some very little family, if non-family present. So, and this post-jackpot generation,
Yeah.
I don't know. Some people are not going to be there when their loved ones pass away.
Yeah. I still had a discussion with a friend of mine whose dad passed, and sadly he couldn't be there. And he says that's one of the things that bites him the most. And I say, man,
It's what it is.
It's what it is. It's what it is. Thank you so much. I've been speaking with Bolanle Okusanya Feyita. It's been a very, very, like, I have so many questions in my head, but we have to round up the pod. But you're going to come back. Oh, hopefully it won't take us to another how many years to schedule. Thank you so much. This is Coffee and Beans with Adesola Balogun, and I'm sure you have comments. Please send us an email, fanmail@coffeeandbeans.com. That's COFFEEANDBANS.com. We are social. We're on Instagram, coffeeandbeans.pod. We're on Twitter @coffeebeanspod. Till the next episode, drink coffee and stay fresh.